You know what happens when a man tries to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded? He twists, he turns, he sweats, he thinks he's making progress. But when he pulls off the blindfold, the cube is a disaster. Worse than when he started. That's what happens when men try to understand women using only male logic. You're running the wrong operating system. You're speaking a language that doesn't map onto the terrain. And the more you insist the terrain is wrong, the more lost you become. Today, I want to make something very clear. Women aren't confusing. Men simply keep using the wrong toolkit. If you try to decode relational dynamics with the same mindset you use to fix machines, negotiate deals, or solve engineering problems, you'll get the wrong answer every time. Not because women are irrational, but because relationships themselves operate on a completely different form of intelligence, emotional, contextual, non-linear. Men are often taught to treat relationships like projects with deadlines, tasks, and metrics, but relationships run on a psychological ecology that men are rarely trained to understand. The truth is this: modern men have grown up in a world that taught them to be functional, useful, productive, yet left them almost completely uneducated in relational psychology. Women, on the other hand, grow up immersed in it. They trade in subtext, nuance, emotion, tone, implication. They are raised in social environments that reward intuition, reading between the lines, detecting emotional shifts, and interpreting context. Men are raised to compartmentalize. Women are raised to interpret. The result: you aren't playing the wrong game, you're playing a different game entirely. Men are often shocked by a woman's emotional logic, but emotional logic is not a defect. It's a different operating system, one calibrated for connection, bonding, meaning, and psychological coherence. A system that has its own rules, its own priorities, and its own feedback loops. You can't win a chess match if you keep insisting the rules of basketball apply. Let me break down the first barrier. Women don't think like men because women are not trying to solve the same problems men are. Men enter relationships seeking stability. Women enter relationships seeking connection. Men want peace. Women want resonance. Men want predictability. Women want vitality, something alive, something reciprocal, something that grows rather than stagnates. When a man says, "things were fine," a woman often hears, "things were dead." When a woman says, "I don't feel connected," a man hears, "this doesn't make logical sense." You're analysing the fuel pump while she's trying to talk about the journey. Many men collapse not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack translation. They misinterpret emotional information as chaos. They treat a feeling as a threat instead of a signal. They respond to emotional distress with problem solving instead of presence. They replace engagement with efficiency, and then they wonder why she shuts down. I want to give you a sobering truth. Women do not leave relationships because men fail at providing solutions. They leave because men fail at providing themselves. Not their money, not their logic, not their advice, themselves. Their presence, their awareness, their groundedness, their steadiness, their ability to navigate emotional storms without losing center. Most men never learn this skill because nobody ever taught it to them. Not their fathers, who were taught to swallow their emotions. Not their schools, which reward compliance over emotional intelligence. Not their workplaces, which measure output, but not depth. Competence, but not connection. So here's the first major insight you must internalize. Women test not because they want to break you, but because they want to find you. A woman's emotional intensity isn't sabotage, it's a searchlight. She is trying to locate the part of you that can navigate life without collapsing, the part that can handle conflict without withdrawal, the part that can respond without losing dignity, the part that stands firm without becoming rigid. She is looking for the man behind the facade, the man who isn't just useful but alive. Men call these moments drama. Women call them truth checks. And when you fail these checks by shutting down, becoming defensive, or outsourcing your emotional authority to her reactions, she stops trusting your center. She stops trusting your leadership. She stops trusting the relationship. This is where men tell me, "But I gave her everything she wanted." No. You gave her everything she asked for, and those are not the same thing. A woman may ask for comfort, but she respects strength. She may ask for more attention, but she desires focused intention. She may ask for vulnerability, but she needs emotional leadership. She may ask for certainty, but she responds to grounded confidence more than promises. Men interpret instructions literally. Women communicate them symbolically. When a woman says she wants emotional openness, she doesn't want you to collapse onto her. She wants to know you are capable of depth, not that you will drown in it. When she says she wants more communication, she isn't asking you to talk endlessly. She's asking you to be emotionally accessible, to be present instead of avoidant, to be aware instead of oblivious. The problem arises when men translate emotional language into mechanical directives. Instead of presence, they give appeasement. Instead of authenticity, they give compliance. Instead of leadership, they give surrender. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man abandoning his own centre in an attempt to please. Now let's talk about something men almost never hear. Women's relational behaviour is heavily shaped by context. A woman's psychology moves according to emotional feedback loops, not isolated moments. Her decisions aren't random, they're cumulative. She remembers patterns, she registers tone, she tracks emotional consistency. She responds to the overall architecture of the relationship, not the last conversation. Men live moment to moment. Women live in narrative. This is why a woman can recall things you said 3 years ago. It isn't weaponization, it's narrative memory. It's how the female brain organizes meaning. Men store events, women store emotional continuity. When you ignore emotional reality long enough, a woman disconnects internally long before she walks away physically. By the time a breakup happens, the woman has usually been psychologically absent for months. Men experience breakups as sudden, women experience them as overdue. This leads me to the modern world. Today's dating environment has amplified confusion, resentment, and misunderstanding between the sexes, not because men and women are fundamentally incompatible, but because the institutions that once guided relational behaviour have collapsed. Without community, without mentors, without healthy models, men build relationships through trial and error, and most of the errors are costly. Men are told to be providers without being taught what to provide. Men are told to be emotionally available without being taught emotional literacy. Men are told to be strong without being taught how strength works in relationships. Men are told not to be controlling, yet also told to be leaders. Men are told to be sensitive, yet mocked when they are. Men are told to be masculine, yet discouraged from embodying it. The modern man is expected to perform contradictory roles without instruction, without guidance, and without recognition. And here is what you must understand. Women today are not malicious. They are overwhelmed. Men are not incompetent. They are uninformed. Both sexes are operating in an environment for which neither has been prepared. Women have been taught to expect emotional genius from men. Men have been taught to suppress the very capacities that emotional genius requires. If you want to navigate this landscape successfully, you must upgrade your relational intelligence. You must cultivate emotional presence, not emotional dependence. You must learn to hold space, not surrender it. You must lead without dominating, listen without collapsing, feel without drowning, and show your inner world without turning your partner into your therapist. Women are not designed to fix you. They are designed to respond to the version of you that you continually build. Let me give you the essential principles every man must know. Emotional intensity is not an attack. It's a search for connection. Her feelings might not be logical, but they are real, and realness is what relationships run on. Presence beats problem solving. She wants your awareness before your solutions. Boundaries aren't barriers, they are signals of self-respect. Leadership isn't about control. It's about direction, stability, and conviction. Vulnerability is strength only when paired with responsibility. Attraction is maintained through growth, not appeasement. Your emotional state sets the tone of the relationship more than you realize. You cannot outsource your self-worth to a woman's approval. A woman cannot trust a man who abandons himself. Women aren't looking for perfection. They are looking for a man who is anchored. A man who can navigate emotion without collapsing into it or running from it. A man who can communicate honestly without weaponizing truth or hiding behind silence. A man who listens deeply but doesn't lose himself in the process. Men fail not because they lack the capacity to understand women, but because they lack the training to understand themselves. If you cannot read your own emotional landscape, you will always misread hers. If you cannot hold your own boundaries, hers will overwhelm you. If you cannot articulate your needs, you will resent hers. If you cannot regulate your internal world, the external world becomes your enemy. The point of learning relational psychology is not to decode women as if they are puzzles. It is to decode yourself so that you can interact with women from a position of strength rather than confusion. Here's the truth that matters most. Women don't want men who think like women. Women want men who understand how women think while remaining fully grounded in their own masculine identity. A strong man does not lose himself in a relationship. He expands inside it. A weak man dissolves. He becomes reactive. He becomes resentful. He becomes confused. He becomes a stranger to himself. And nothing repels a woman faster than a man who has abandoned his own structure. The goal is not to become emotionally identical to women. The goal is to become emotionally fluent, to understand the emotional grammar of relationships without losing the clarity of your masculine syntax. Women operate on connection, men operate on direction. The two are complementary, not contradictory. When a man combines direction with empathy, leadership with openness, strength with emotional intelligence, he becomes unstoppable. Not because women worship him, but because he finally understands the landscape he's navigating. When you integrate the emotional operating system women use, not imitate it, you gain relational authority. You communicate with clarity. You lead with confidence. You love with depth. And you stop mistaking emotional complexity for emotional chaos. This isn't about control. It's about competence. It's not about domination. It's about understanding. It's not about decoding women. It's about upgrading yourself. Once you grasp this, the relational world stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like terrain you can move through deliberately. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop guessing and start interpreting. You stop collapsing and start leading. And when you operate from that place, everything changes. Your relationships improve. Your confidence deepens. Your emotional clarity sharpens. Your sense of purpose stabilizes. Your interactions become cleaner, stronger, more intentional. This is the path men were never taught. This is the operating system men were never given. And this is the knowledge that transforms confusion into mastery. Not because women change, but because you do.